Hello all, and welcome to this afternoon's beer review. It is a Friday afternoon. I'm still in beer mode, and I'm going to dub this beer review the mistaken beer review because last night I recorded a review and I completely forgot that on New Year's Eve I went in already reviewed the Red Giant. I'm going to upload both because it's really interesting to see how close they were, even though I'd completely forgotten that I had tasted it and done a review on it. And what's different is actually a little bit interesting. But when I upload it, you guys can kind of go and see just that sort of difference that's there uh, in the fact that I had two blind tastes on it because I had completely forgotten that I had done it already. All right. So what are we reviewing to do this afternoon? Well, because it is a work night, but I've really missed beer quite a bit, I'm going to be reviewing a fairly light beer. And not light in color, but light in alcohol content. This is Shiner Bock, a very famous beer from Texas. Uh, in the age of macrolagers, it was one of the few macrolagers that was dark malt. So it's not a true German style Bock. It's an American style Bock. German style Bocks generally have a much higher alcohol content. 4.4 ABV. That's even lighter than Budweiser. So let's go and read this here. Bock beer combines old world Bavarian heritage with the ingenuity of American handcraft brewing for a smooth, always satisfying taste. Spoetzl Brewery, Shiner, Texas. So let's just get this out, because I'm thirsty. Okay, fizzy to frothy, off-white head, decently carbonated, a nice golden brown color. Very clear though, no haze. Nose is of dark malts, very bready, very much a cereal grain smell to it, and just the ever so slight floral and spice hops. Very slight though. Malt up front, malt in the middle, and malt in the finish. So, a very defined bready cereal malt taste. It doesn't shift much from start to finish. Some slight hop bittering, a little bit on the old world style, just over the top of that malt base. Finish is fairly clean. There's a slight sweetness, lingering sweetness on the palate. Despite it being mostly a malt show, not particularly sweet. It's balanced, but not too much dimensionality to that malt. It's basically malty tasting, bready kind of cereal notes. Body is somewhat light, but I wouldn't say it's watery. I think a lot of people would, though. For me, the residual sweetness as well as the level of hopping is just enough to go and render it okay in my book. So it warms up a little bit. Hop bitterness is starting to make a bigger show. Interesting. Usually it's the malts that tend to show more as it warms up. But hops are starting to make a little bit more of an appearance on the top notes. On the mouth, not so much nose. There's not really much going on for the top notes of the nose, or effervescent notes, as I like to say. All in all, I'd have to say this is pretty much an example of what went for a dark beer for most of the post-prohibition history of American beers. It's not bad, but not good either. Not particularly interesting, just refreshing to drink. It's pretty much a macro lager, a dark macro lager, more or less. Nothing really offensive about it, but nothing really all that interesting or, you know, say compare this to something like Anchor Steam, yeah, you know, much more taste nuance, much bigger taste in Anchor Steam. And I'm comparing it because the coloration is very much the same. All in all, a refreshing, inoffensive beer. I'd obviously prefer to drink this. If I'm going to drink a macro lager, I generally would prefer to drink a darker macro lager, hence Negra Modelo being something I order quite a bit when I'm out at restaurants that don't really carry craft beer. Um, if I'm going to have a macro lager, I prefer it to be dark malted. This would generally, if a place that's only got macro lagers, yeah, I'd go and pick this over any other pale macro lager, which has less flavor. This has flavor, not complex by any means, not intense, but decent enough. Shiner Bock, kind of a macro lager style on, you know, dark lager, American Bock, whatever you would want to call it. Not bad, but not really interesting either. Drinkable. Your mileage may vary, as with all things. So, as it says on here, with the goat and the Prosit, Prost.